level and a psychological level is just as important as who fits your style and your game plan based on their skill sets too. And, man, so my head coach, you kind of try out some coaches, you find who you want to be your CIC or your head coach, and that person kind of runs your camp. So mine is Pitbull, Thiago Alves. He's a newer coach at ATT since he's just, moving towards retirement from him competing, and he's been focused more on a coaching role, and he's been fantastic. Like, he's very attentive, has such a good grasp as somebody who, fought for a world title and competed at such a high level for so long on not overtraining, not, doing the right amount of hard work, not pushing through unnecessary injuries, things like that. Like, it's just the wealth of knowledge at that gym is crazy because there have been more world champions that have come out of ATT than any other gym in the world.
Yeah. That's crazy that they have built this almost dynasty, really, because, there's been so many amazing athletes that have come out of there and so many championships that have come out of there. Like, and I'm trying to think, so how many coaches roughly do you think are there?
Probably 15 at least.
Okay.
I would think.
I like that.
Sure. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I like that they, like you said, they try to match the right coach with the right athlete because, a lot of times that's why, unfortunately, some people will leave a gym because they're not getting along with the coach. They're not seeing eye to eye. They're not all on the same page, which, again, you all have to be on the same page if you're going into battle like you guys are, or you people are. And so having that right fit, it makes sense that they are just shuffling them around to see who works best with who.
And it really is such a professional environment. I think that martial arts, and this is a good and a bad thing, but martial arts, it's very easy to get very culty with martial arts because you find it's such an intimate sport, and you find people that, man, enjoy this like you do. It's very easy for everybody to kind of get that weird hive mind where it's like, us versus everybody else in the world. And
right.
ATT isn't like that. Like, obviously there's this wonderful camaraderie and, like, people do support each other, and I think part of it's because the gym is so big and there's people from all over the world with all different management teams, and some of them bring their own coaches with them as well, and they work with the coaches at ATT in addition to them. You see, like, it's a very professional environment. Like, it feels like people are just there purely to pursue being the best fighters that they can be, instead of ending up in kind of this, like, kind of weird toxic culture that definitely can happen at some gyms. And I think that's one of the reasons it's done so well, is it's not the coaching staff, they don't take things personally. It's not, you can work with whoever you find, you try out different coaches. They're very, like, they keep their classes separate. Like, I remember asking one coach that wasn't coaching, he was just, like, on the side during another class, a question. He's like, hey, this ain't my class. Like, not stepping over each other's toes. Like, they all have the ability to work the way that they work best within that system, which is why it's so effective for so many different fighters, because there's so many guys are on completely different schedules. Like, there's not like, everybody goes to these 5 classes. It's nothing like that. It's very well tailored to each individual fighter.
So who, out of a lot of the athletes and the coaches, who do you feel like you're learning the most from, either watching or actually having, like, one-on-one conversations?
Honestly, it's several. It's several. So, like, I love that there's every coach really has a specialty. Honestly, except Mike Brown. I guess Mike Brown still has his specialties too, but he's just such a well-rounded guy. I love working with him. He has some really, like, his cage work and his, like, MMA grappling works really, really well in my game. Steve Mocco has made a huge impact on me since moving here, because my wrestling was not great when I got here. And the way he runs practices, they are set up like a college wrestling practice. and you work super hard and it's high pace, but the skills are so well tailored for MMA, and his knowledge and his fight IQ is so high. I've learned a lot from him. Thiago Alves, once again, he has really helped me on the striking side. So has Coach Cattell. Pohumpa is my jiu-jitsu coach. His style of grappling is fantastic for MMA too. I think there's a lot of jiu-jitsu guys that get really hung up on traditional jiu-jitsu and sport jiu-jitsu, and it doesn't always work as well with MMA, but he has tailored his game to the MMA game incredibly well as well.
That's awesome. It's so good that you still have so many people around you that you're learning from, because I think people never stop learning, or they never should stop learning, especially when they're, in a field like you are, where the sport is evolving so much that if you're not staying on top of, every little aspect of it, you can get left behind, and that will, lead to more losses, and, it's not going to work out well for you. So you have to continually learn and just keep picking people's brains when it comes to, what to do next and how the evolution of the sport is going.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that the amount I've learned since moving here, you tend to hit plateaus through your career, and then you find you'll find something, and you'll be in that moment. You just get this huge influx of knowledge and skill growth. And that's kind of this season that I've been in since we moved here a year ago, and I'm loving it. I feel like a sponge. I'm just soaking up all sorts of new stuff.
Yeah, there is sometimes that the learning and knowledge can hit you so hard it's almost like trying to drink from a fire hose. But you have to, whatever you can get, you have to be, like you said, you have to be a sponge about it and allow it to sink in, and then go back and think about it again later, because once you actually start thinking about it longer, then a lot of that knowledge makes more sense, and you're seeing more aspects of it, as opposed to right when it hits you, you're just trying to take it in as much as possible, and you're not fully understanding, but you're like, okay, yeah, I get it. But then later you think, oh, that's what they're talking about.
Right. No, 100%. Yeah. And things click at different rates.
So you're also coming back from an injury right now. Tell us about the injury.
So I actually have had 4 knee surgeries. This last one was my 4th. I tore my meniscus during just a freak accident in sparring training one day, and I had a pretty severe meniscus tear. It was torn before this last piece of the injury, but it was a much milder tear. So I ended up with I think it's called a bucket handle tear, where the bottom half of my meniscus was flipped over underneath the top half. So they had to kind of pull it out, and the goal was to save as much of my meniscus as possible, but it was pretty the bottom little flap was pretty shredded. So I don't have a whole lot of meniscus left, but I'm doing my best. I have a really, really fantastic physical therapy team at Force Physical Therapy in Davie, Florida. They've just been phenomenal, huge help to me. A lot of my teammates have been out there too. They've worked with a lot of high level fighters. Very, very great sports specific therapy and strength training. So I'm recovering really fast. I'm 6 weeks, a little over 6 weeks post-op, and I'm back in boxing. I'm starting to kick lightly, I'm working towards maybe doing some jiu-jitsu drills tomorrow. We tried out some positional stuff, and everything felt really great. So it's been a very seamless, very smooth recovery process.
How's the mental bit of coming back from an injury going for you?
I am not quite sure. Some days it's really good. Some days it's a little bit tougher. I think that the real test of that is going to be when I get the opportunity to go live again, because that's where your confidence in your healed limb is so important. So I'm honestly loving being back in training so much right now, but I'm not at risk right now. I'm hitting pads, I'm hitting the bag, I'm kicking the bag. I'm not engaging wrestling with somebody who's trying to take me down. I'm not there. So.
No, that makes sense. But as much as this is a physical sport, it's also a very mental sport too. And coming back from an injury, you know, you see it with athletes all across the board. A lot of them they will have that mental struggle afterwards. Like, can I still do it? Is my, you know, leg, my arm, whatever, is it going to hold up? You know, they don't want to go too hard, so they maybe injure the other leg or the other arm because they're trying to, you know, counterbalance everything, even though, you know, that injury may have actually made it better than it ever was before the injury. Plus, you know, it's a brand new, so it's just the mental part of it, you know, is something that you know, I imagine you went through a bit of depression as well too, and maybe even questioning, is this what you're supposed to be doing? But, you know, as long as you're fighting through that and continuing to, you know, reassure yourself and know that you know, this is what you're meant to do and this is what you're going to be doing. So.
No, 100%. And like I said earlier, like, I am very strong in my faith. So I went through that process of like, wow, is God telling me I'm not supposed to fight anymore? Like, is that where we're at now? Because I have a lot of really cool other things going on right now. You know, I'm doing classes with Live Trained. I have an NFT project we're launching soon. I've got some really awesome media stuff with Fight Bananas. So I'm like, man, is this the sign? But I'm not quite, if it is, I'm missing it because I'm not ready to give this up yet, you know? So it's, and I'm recovering so well too. I think I've got a lot of good years ahead of me competing. Good.
I'm glad you still have that mindset of, nope, I'm not done. If there's a sign, I'm driving right by it. It's not going to stop me. Now, tell us more about these, because I was going to bring up you have an MMA fitness series with Live Trained. You were talking about NFT, and then, you know, doing stuff with Fight Man. Break some of that down. What do you got going on in the future?
Yeah, so I love working with Live Trained. I think what they're doing is a really cool platform. It's kind of like Peloton, but more badass. And, you know, because there's fighters, there's high-level wrestlers, and everybody in there is an expert in their field. Like, you can literally go on there and wrestle with David Taylor. Like, it's such a cool platform. Like, and you can sign up for one-on-one classes. So if you really want to, like, pick these fighters' brains, if you want, like, a very deep technical analysis of a certain position, you can sign up for those. Or you can, like, just hop in and do a fun hard workout. So, like, our MMA fitness series, it's meant to be done wherever you are without any equipment. Like, we want it to be accessible for everybody. It's a kind of a mix between, like, body weight exercises and MMA techniques, fast-paced, like, 15-minute workout, you know, so easy to do wherever you're at. We're starting to film a band series this week as well, so I'm actually starting that this afternoon with Live Trained. So we'll have that up on the platform soon as well. Just go check it out. They have so much cool stuff. It's like, if people do want the links to my classes, they can go to my Instagram, at @the_ruthless_Elle Dawson. And you'll be able to, on my, literally the last reel I posted with Live Trained, it's collabed and pinned on my account. You can go and click on that link and it'll take you to my classes and whatnot. So you can take a look at that, and you can take a look at the rest of the platform too. But we have that going on. Really cool platform. And then, so with Fight Bananas, that was kind of a random thing too. I just did a call with Dave Van Auken from Fight Bananas, and we did like a Instagram live, and we broke down, I don't even remember which card it was, but we broke down one of the UFC cards. This was over a year ago when I first got to Florida, and we just had a blast doing it. He called me up after and was like, hey, like, do you want to do a podcast? And we started betting bananas. So, myself, Brian Quinn, former Bellator fighter, also trained at ATT, and then Dave, every week we get on Fight Bananas, you know, we go live sometimes. Sometimes it's just recorded up on the Facebook and on the platform, the podcast platforms, and we do our betting picks, you know. So we do some picks. We actually do pretty well, I will say, for a couple of fighters. You know, we do all right. But we do our picks. It's a really fun experience. I think that a lot of betting shows are kind of missing that personable, more fun approach. Like, it's very serious for a lot of people, which I totally understand, because when you're putting money on the line,
of course.
Serious. But I think there's a lot of very dry betting shows out there, and ours is definitely not that. And we're looking at growing Fight Banana